Okay.
Okay, you're
Hi
recording?
everyone. This is Ling Ling.
This is Mark.
We are here to introduce you werewolf. You might know us, you might not know us. That's not important. But today you're going to learn about werewolf. Okay. So
Now, to be clear, we're talking about Werewolf, a game, and not real werewolves, which we don't know very much about.
okay. Thank you for your explanation, Mark. So prepare for online werewolf. So in addition to your computers, we need you to download WhatsApp because that's how we want werewolf to communicate at night. So make sure you have your WhatsApp downloaded, and you also need to make sure that you add your moderator on WhatsApp. You can take note during discussion. We encourage you to take notes so that you remember what other players talk about. Okay, so if we meet in person, this is how people seat. So each player is assigned one number, and you seat next to your numbers. And then when you refer to the other players, you can refer to their numbers instead of their names.
Do you think that's dehumanizing, Ling Ling?
What? No.
Okay, Ling Ling, what country are you from, though?
I'm from China.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, but because we are doing online werewolf, this is how I'm going to assume that everyone see. So you can see people's name and their numbers. So werewolf needs.
We don't have to learn everyone's names because we can use the numbers.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So werewolf, we have 12 players, and 4 people will be villagers, and 4 people will be special villagers, and the rest of 4 people will be werewolf. So the games will alternate between night and day. So at night, werewolf will kill a person. And then during daytime, the villagers and special villagers will try to find out who's the werewolf and then try to vote out the werewolf. So the werewolf team wins if the werewolf teams can kill either all the villagers or all the special villagers. And then the villagers and special villagers teams can win if they vote out all the werewolves. So this is the organization of the game. It looks very complicated, but it's actually very easy. So first step, everybody get their identity cards, and then you can check your cards. But you cannot review your cards to any players in the game. And then
you'll get your identity cards through an email in the game we're going to be playing. And if you're hosting a different sort of game, the moderator will be the one who gives them to you. And that's the only person who actually needs to have like a set of werewolf or know what all the cards are and stuff like that.
Yes. So the game starts when you read your identity cards. Good players can tell whether the other players are werewolf or not simply by looking at how they check their identity cards and like the facial expression they have after they check their identity cards. So this is a very important procedures in this game, that you check your identity cards and make sure that you control your facial expressions and nobody can tell if you get werewolf cards. And then the moderator will announce that it's nighttime. And then during nighttime, so first is werewolf open their eyes and then they can pick a victim. So basically they can eat a person.
So what we'll do in an online version is that everyone will turn off their mics and their camera, and then the werewolves will communicate on WhatsApp. And there's going to be a moderator present in that discussion to make sure that the werewolves don't communicate in a way that wouldn't have been allowed in a traditional game.
Yes. And then the guardians will open his eyes.
So the guardian is one of the special villagers, and you're going to tell us about the guardian now or a little later?
I can tell people about the guardians now. Okay, so guardian. Oh, guardian. Okay, so this is the guardian. So the guardians can protect the players every single night, but he cannot protect the same players in 2 consecutive nights. So let's say I have protected Mark tonight, then I cannot protect Mark next night. His strategy is basically to hide from werewolf. He can protect himself. And also he has to be very strategic about when to protect other special villagers.
Right, and we'll just throw out there that the most important special villager is probably the seer. So if the guardian's pretty sure they know who the seer is and they think that the werewolves also know that, they're going to want to protect the seer.
Mm-hmm. But if the werewolf eat the person the guardian protect, then during daytime the moderator will announce that nobody dies.
Now, another character, the witch, can sometimes protect people too. So if, let's say the witch, when the moderator announces what happens at night, would the players that aren't the witch or the guardian know which one protected the player?
No. So the guardian and the witch do not share information together. So the guardian would only tell the moderator like who is the player that he wants to protect. And when it's the witch turns, the witch does not know who is the person that guardian protect. So then they don't share information. And if the guardian protect the person, and then the person also get killed by the werewolf, then the moderator will tell the witch that a person get killed at night. But then at that time, the witch does not know that person has already got protected by the guardian. So then let's say the witch also decided to save that person. If the witch and the guardian both protect the same person, that person still dies. That's very unlikely to happen. But based on the rules, if the guardian and the witch protect the same person, that person died.
What?
Yes.
Why?
Because they don't. That's just like a weird rules in werewolf. I recently watched an episode like about the professional player play the games, and so at the first night, one werewolf tried to kill herself, and then the guardian happens to protect her, and then the witch also saved her. So then the werewolf that killed herself actually dies in the game when two special villagers try to protect her. So that happens.
Okay, if you say so, Ling Ling, you're the expert.
Okay. Okay, so after the guardians open his eyes, it's the seer's turn. So the seer's power is to track a person's card. Well, the seer cannot know whether that person's real identity, but the seers can know whether that person belongs to the villagers teams or the special villager team, or that person is a werewolf. So let's say if Mark is a witch, and then if I want to check Mark's card, I cannot tell if Mark is a witch. I can only know that he's not a werewolf.
So you don't know if I'm a normal villager or a special villager, right?
Yes.
You just know I'm team human.
Yes.
And you wouldn't know if someone's like the white werewolf if we were playing with that card, or just some sort of random werewolf.
Yes. So you only know that person is in werewolf team or not in werewolf team, but you don't know like the specific identity that person has. Okay.
And well, it said, we might come back to the strategy thing later, right?
Okay. And then it's the witch's turn. So the witch has 2 power. So it's 1 save and 1 kill. So she cannot use the save power and kill power at the same time. And if she is the person that get killed, she cannot save herself. So what happened is at night, the moderator will communicate, using hands, and then communicate with who is the person that get killed. So let's say Mark number is number 4. If I'm the moderator, I can be like number 4 dies in the game. And the witch can decide whether she wants to save player number 4 or not. And she can also decide if she wants to kill any players in the game, but just to make sure she cannot use the save power and the kill power at the same time. So her strategy is basically to hide herself from the werewolf. If she got killed at the first night, that's very unfortunate. But then she can still kill a player if she wants, but she won't know like that person's specific identities.
Right. So the witch has to balance that they only get one use of their powers and they could die without using them, and not wanting to use their powers to help the wrong side since they don't have perfect information, or basically any information at the very beginning.
Yes. Okay. So after the witch is the knight. So the knight is a very interesting special character. He is the only special character that can use his power during daytime. So all the special villager that we have introduced to you are all the villagers that basically use their power at nighttime. But night is different. Night can use his power before voting, and it's during daytime. So let's say like during sheriff election period or during discussion period, the knight can challenge a player. And if the person that get challenged is a werewolf, that person get out of the game. So basically that person get killed by the knight. But if that person is a villager or a special villager, the knight die of shame because the knight could not challenge a good person. But so only one limitation to his power. So if the knight is poisoned by the witch at night, then the knight could not use his power.
So if the knight is eaten by the werewolves at night, he still can't. Can he use his power?
So if the knight is eaten by the werewolf, then at daytime the moderator will announce that the knight dies.
And he can't
then
use his power then either, right?
He can't use his power. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that's basically all the special villagers that we have introduced. And then we also need to introduce a special werewolf. So so in this game we have 3 ordinary werewolves and 1 white werewolf. So all the ordinary werewolf, so all the werewolf can open their eyes together at night and they can discuss like what strategies that they want to use. But then the white werewolf have one special power. So the white werewolf can kill players at daytime during discussion. His strategy is basically to kill a special villagers. So preferably the witch or the guardian. But he can also discuss with his werewolf teammate about who he wants to kill and what would be most beneficial for the werewolf team. So he's like a suicide bomber in the werewolf team. So that's all the characters that we have introduced. And then so after nighttime, during daytime, the moderator, so during the first daytime, the moderators will not announce who dies, but instead we will have like a sheriff election. So sheriff election is important because whoever becomes the sheriff can have 0.5 more votes.
Well, is this after the moderator announces who dies or instead of?
It's before.
Oh, okay.
So before the moderator announces who dies, even when like nobody dies at night, whatever. So first we'll have like a sheriff election. So everyone who wants to run for sheriff can run for sheriff. Everybody can run. But then the people who don't run for sheriff can vote. So let's say I decided to run for sheriff for the werewolf team. And then I can communicate with my werewolf teammates to have them vote for me. So instead of having all the werewolves run, I will be the only werewolf that runs. So then I can have my teammate to support me.
How could you communicate that?
We can talk about, so what I would do is I would be like, I be the seers, like be the fake seers, and then I will have like, so other werewolf will be like, I will ask them to like not run for sheriff, or you can do other strategy. Yeah, like not run for sheriff. So I will be the only person. Yeah, exactly. So it'll be I am the seers, and then I will run for sheriff. Things like that. Yeah.
Cool.
So that's how we communicate. And so the thing about sheriff, another benefit is after the sheriff get killed, either it's get voted out or get eaten by werewolf, the sheriff can pass his badge to whoever's that survive in the game. So let's say I'm a werewolf and Mark is also a werewolf and I got the sheriff badge, and then I can pass it to Mark after I die.
But you might not want to do that if, say, the seer said, someone that everyone believes is the seer said you're a werewolf, because then you'd be outing me. So it could get complicated, but in general, it's a pretty powerful thing that you can pass the badge.
Yes.
Now, And then after this, on the first turn, you're going to announce who died or if no one died.
Yes.
As the moderator.
Yes.
Now, sometimes people can talk after they've been killed, and sometimes they can't. So, can you explain that?
Okay, sure. So, people who get voted out by villagers or special villager at daytime, they could always talk. But then people who get eaten by werewolf, they usually could not talk. So let's say I kill Mark, and then so at daytime, the moderator will announce Mark is the person that dies. So then Mark will leave, and he could not say anything. But then if Mark get voted out, he can leave a statement. But we have like an exception rule for people who dies at the first night. So the person that get eaten by werewolf at the first night, that person can leave a statement. What's special about this is that we are playing a game with a white werewolf. So the person that get bombed by the white werewolf could not leave a statement. So that's like an exception rule to the specific games that we're playing. But usually if you kill by but usually if you simply get voted out at daytime, you can talk. But if you get killed by white werewolf at daytime, you cannot talk. Yes. Okay. So next to the sheriff election, it's like Mark said that we will the moderator will announce who dies at night. And then the remaining players will discuss and then who try to find out who's the werewolf, and then they will vote for a person that they think is the most likely candidates to be the werewolf. And then whoever got the most votes will die at daytime. And then we will enter the nighttime again, and then it will be werewolf open their eyes, guardian open eyes, the witch and the seers in the night. That's basically how the game's organized. So because we are playing online werewolf, the rules is a little bit different. So at daytimes, at daytime, you should turn on your audios and video. At nighttime, you should turn off your videos and audio so that you can communicate and also make sure that when werewolf communicate, nobody noticed them. So
if we wanted to make it a little more formal, we could have it where you should only have your audio on when you're allowed to speak, because it's really hard for people to not speak when it's not their turn.
Okay, sure.
So I don't know. That's something for everyone to be aware of, is that there are only certain periods of time where you're allowed to talk in werewolf. And that's somewhat determined by the sheriff. And it does kind of make the game different if everyone's breaking that rule.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so that's a good advice. Usually, so if you're playing with a lot of people, better just to have people's audios turned off when it's not their turns to speak. So for a werewolf to communicate, so they will use WhatsApp because we're playing an online version. People will use WhatsApp, and I think me and Mark can do a small demo about how werewolf communicate. Okay, Mark, are you ready?
I think I'm ready. Oh, okay. Never mind. That's irrelevant for video. All right, I opened WhatsApp. You're a contact of mine on WhatsApp. What do I do now?
We can do a video chat.
No, you're on another call.
No, I'm calling you.
Oh, do you see me?
Okay, that's fine. We can assume that we are now we are on WhatsApp. We can just communicate on Zoom so that people can see us. Oh my gosh, Mark. Okay. Okay. So me and Mark are on WhatsApp.
Hi, Ling Ling. What are you up to?
I'm good. Wait.
Okay, so should we be muted on here somehow?
I can't see your face. Okay, good. Okay, so we can both see each other both on Zoom and WhatsApp. Okay. So there are a few things that werewolf needs to communicate. Our suggestions is you should pick a players to run for the fake seer, because if the seers can check a player's identity every single rounds, there's little room for werewolf.
Unless you guys think unless you think it won't go well, because like if you say you're the fake seer, there's going to be at least one person who knows you're lying. So it's probably what the best players do, but it's not a low risk operation.
Okay, so so at night, werewolves are only allowed to communicate silently. They cannot talk to each other. So what we do is that we use hands to communicate. Okay, so now Mark is saying to kill number 2, to kill players number 2. And I could be like, where are you thinking number 2 is? Wait, Mark, I don't know what that means.
I don't know. Maybe number 2 broke my heart. That's why I wanted to kill number 2.
Okay, so that's not a good reason to kill number 2, because in werewolf you want to either kill special villagers or villagers. Depending on, well, if you have already killed a lot of villagers, maybe continue to kill villagers is a good idea. But then usually most of the times, werewolf wants to kill all the special villagers because they have special powers.
So
Okay.
how symbolize, like, if you wanted to kill, like, let's say number 4 because you think they're the knight and you have a good read on them, like, how would you communicate that to me?
Okay, so I would be like, kill number 4. Kill number 4. That person. Well, how do we communicate knight? So it could be like this. Kill number 4. That person is this. So if you think that person is like a seer, you could be like, kill number 4, that person is the seer. Or if you want to kill the witch, usually what we do is like, kill number 4, that person is a witch. So we do like this.
Like stirring a cauldron.
Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. If that person is a guardian, so guardian we usually do this because like that's like a shield. So it could be like, kill number 4, that person is a guardian. That's one thing that werewolf needs to communicate. So the other thing is that werewolf also needs to have like a general strategy. Like who do you want your teammates to support? So you don't want all your teammates to support you if you are going to run for to be the fake seer. So let's say I want to communicate that I want to be the fake seer, but I don't want Mark to support me. So I could be like, so in werewolf game we will be like, I want to be the seer, but I want you, so I will point Mark. Or
you could use my number.
You. So we do this, so which means that you should not. So this is like a hook. In Chinese, if we don't want our werewolf teammate to support us, this is something in Chinese we call it 倒钩, which means it's like you're like a hook in the other teams. So we'll do something like this is like a hook. So I want to be the fake seer, but I don't want you to support me. So it will be like, Mark, be the hook.
And don't try to remember this, everyone. Like, these are just like great ways of doing it. Just make up something if you don't remember.
Yeah. You are always free to do whatever you want as long as your werewolf teammates understand what you're saying. Okay, so much about communicating at night. Let's move on to the next slide. Oh, okay, sorry. Villagers. So villagers, we have 4 players to be villagers. So villagers, they do not wake up at night, but they can. But villagers are also very important. So some people might think that only special villagers are important, but villagers can play very important roles in the game. So one thing that villagers can do is that they can run for sheriff. They can, during sheriff election, they can claim that, so let's say I can pretend that I am the seer. So I will be like, oh, even though I'm actually a villager. So I could be like, I am the seers and I think Mark is a good person. And then, but then during, so in the end of the sheriff election, I can be like, oh, I quit. So I won't continue to run for sheriff. And then I can, but even though I cannot vote, I have expressed to everybody that I think Mark is a good person. So basically, if you know, you can still run for sheriff, and it give you extra times to speak for yourself, which is always a good thing for villagers. Well, the bad thing about being villager is that you cannot prove to other people that you are only a villager. So you might need to be more creative about the way that you persuade people, and also try to make sure that you don't get voted out by villagers and special villagers at a time. Mark, do you have anything to add? You have.
Yeah, I would say if you're new to the game and you're a villager, like you could rejoice that your role is kind of more chill. Like, don't feel like you need to be claiming to be various special villagers or stuff like that unless you can think of like a good reason to and like know why you're doing it. Um, like there are good reasons, but you know, if you are just kind of don't know what to do, I'd say just chill and try to vote for the right people based on who you think is good and bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That's so much for today. If
Is
you
that
have
it?
any questions, please feel free to email us.
Oh no, I have a question. Ling Ling, who's the best werewolf player?
The best werewolf player in my mind is JY. It's always JY. He is the best.
Is
Um,
JY good looking?
JY always win the game, and the reason why I think he's the best player is because he always come up with very creative ways to play werewolf. So when I was in primary school, I started to play werewolf, but at that time, werewolf is only an ordinary board game. It's nothing like special. But then when JY and some other good werewolf players begins to play the games, it suddenly becomes such an interesting games because they invented many great strategies. So keep playing werewolf. Hope you enjoy playing werewolf. We'll see you next time.
All right. Is the recording over?